The dark side of Dr. Phil. This is a suggestion via Discord. Let's go ahead and jump into this immediately, guys. See where this takes us.
Phil McGraw, better known as Dr. Phil, has made a career of rescuing addicts on television. But a recent report by Stat at the Boston Globe paints a very different picture, claiming Phil McGraw's staff directs guests who are struggling with addiction to drugs and provides them with alcohol in an effort to add to the on-air drama. In one clip, a pregnant heroin
A couple of people have actually said this.
addict is seen searching for a dealer on Skid Row in L.A. A journey her mother says 3 of the show's staffers accompanied them on. In another case, a young woman's family said producers actually told them to go to Skid Row to get heroin if necessary. Then there was Todd Herzog, a former winner of the reality show Survivor, who was so drunk when he appeared on the show, he couldn't stand up by himself. We'll find out how he says he got to that state in a minute. The Dr. Phil Show has released an official statement in response to the two-part story, stating the show does not give drugs or alcohol to its guests, and any suggestions of the contrary is errant nonsense. Deception, dishonesty, and denial are hallmarks of addiction. It tears families apart and certainly creates levels of complexities when we produce these important shows. Joining me are Evan Allen and David Armstrong, the two reporters behind this terrific story. Good to see you both. Could you, one of you, fill in the blanks on this Todd Herzog thing? What exactly happened to him? Do you want to do it, Evan?
Sure. So Todd appeared on the show several times. The first was in 2013, and he and his family say that when he arrived on set, he was not intoxicated. But he says that when he went to his dressing room, he found a bottle of vodka, and unsupervised by his family, he drank the whole thing. He also says that somebody then handed him a Xanax to calm his nerves. So by the time he got on stage, he was completely wasted. Dr. Phil actually breathalyzed him on stage, and he blew .263.
And you spoke to a couple of people, family members and others, who confirmed that he was in fact sober when he got to the green room, when he got to the dressing room, right?
His father said he was sober, and then we spoke to a treatment provider who said his mother said that he was sober.
There are other examples.
Guys, they just so happen to have a breathalyzer on the stage here, guys. Yeah, listen, one of the producers obviously, left something in his dressing room. That's what happened.
He was sober, and then we spoke to a treatment provider who said
it feels like that's the truth.
There are other examples. I mean, I touched on some of them, David. Give us another example of somebody with whom you spoke who was a guest who, I would argue, assuming this is all accurate, was abused by either McGraw or his team.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other set of guests we looked at were people with heroin addiction or opioid-related disorders. And these people arrive in Los Angeles often a day or two before the taping and start going through a very dangerous detox process. And they start looking for drugs, and they're desperate for drugs. And that's where the real danger is. And we've had people, an aunt tell us that the producer told them to go to Skid Row to get heroin. And as you showed, there was one pregnant woman who went to Skid Row with a producer filming it to get heroin. Obviously, there's dangers there. You don't know what you're getting. You're using other people's needles. All sorts of things can go wrong.
You know, they say this is all untrue, as I said a minute ago. These are aberrational. But all you have to do in your story is read the ever-changing responses to your questions about whether or not these guests were medically supervised. Here's this guy, Martin Greenberg, who's the show's director of professional affairs, also a psychologist. Here's his first response to the Stat team question about medical supervision. No, of course not. It's a television show. Then after they sent detailed questions to him, the next said yes, we do 100% of the time. And then this week, Greenberg qualified his earlier statements about medical supervision. We mean 100% of guests agreeing to treatment. It does not mean that a guest is being monitored 100% of the time. So assuming...
but yet they film all of the crazy debauchery, for the sole purpose of most likely ratings and views. Guys.
It does not mean that a guest is being monitored 100% of the time. So assuming the last one is partially true, at least in some circumstances, they're acknowledging people with serious substance abuse problems are not getting medical supervision. That's a factually accurate, correct?
Right.
Well, we're not sure. The people that we've talked to said they were not medically supervised. I mean, that we know for sure, that they said they were not getting any help and assistance. The show used that as a defense, saying we had eyes on these people 100% of the time with trained personnel, that what you're saying can't be true. So those things are all in conflict.
Could you explain something else? So what is Dr. Phil, I can't believe I'm even calling him Dr. Phil. What is McGraw's path to recovery? What is this program that you guys read about?
Sure. It's a virtual reality program. It is designed to be used in addiction treatment facilities. puts the user into different scenarios with Dr. Phil, where he sort of talks you through how to handle being out at a bar, for example, without using any substances.
And what happens if a treatment center purchases? How much does it cost a month? Several $1,000 bucks?
It's been marketed between $3,500 to $7,000.
And what happens if a treatment center purchases Dr. Phil's Path to Recovery? What happens in return?
Well, we spoke with one potential customer who shared details of a conversation in which they were pitched this product, and they were told, you'll be one of the go-to facilities or go-to resource for addiction treatment for the show. You may get a chance to go on the show. The referrals that you get through this program tend to be high-income people that can make treatment decisions for their families, so It's a good marketing opportunity.
And correct me if I'm wrong, some of the people who've taken advantage of this, some of the treatment centers taking advantage of this have a horrible record of not only success vis-a-vis their clients, but even stopping their clients from escaping the facility. Is that not true?
That is true.
I mean, listen, I don't mind the concept of stopping someone from escaping the facility, specifically if they are kind of known for being like a heavy narcotic abuser, let's say here. Let's continue.
I wrote about one facility in Florida that uses this and promotes it very heavily and promotes their association with Dr. Phil very aggressively, that's had scores and scores just in the past 2 years of kids running away, getting in trouble. Then they did a testimonial with one of their kids who used this Path to Recovery product, who 3 days later left the place, relapsed, and then went home.
In your two-part reporting, you acknowledge that lawsuits against McGraw and his production company have been unsuccessful. So obviously that accrues to their benefit in terms of the argument. And secondly, Greenberg, in one of your pieces, and I'm paraphrasing, says something like, we've had thousands of guests. The fact that there are, as he doesn't use the word disgruntled, a few disgruntled, what does that say? Everybody's got a failure rate. How do you respond to that? That's fairly compelling, is it not? You pick 3 or 4 or 5 really egregious examples, and even if they acknowledge that they were true, which they do not, why is their argument that there are thousands who are not complaining, many of whom are thrilled about what they got? Why is that not a compelling defense, Evan?
Well, if people were complaining about simply being unsatisfied or not liking the way they were portrayed, that's one thing. But people are complaining about being put in serious physical jeopardy. I mean, drinking a bottle of vodka and taking a Xanax is not something anybody would recommend. That can be fatal.
Right. Guys, nor putting someone's some type of a bottle of alcohol inside of someone's dressing room, knowing that they're here for their copious amounts of alcohol consumption, and then saying, hey, listen, we're going to go ahead and do this for him, let him completely fail, and then magically have a breathalyzer on the stage.
But also, you don't know that there are not scores
guys.
Or hundreds or whatever of others who are similarly situated.
Well, one important point is people sign waivers with the show saying they won't talk about the show, they won't sue the show. We've seen these waivers now. We hadn't seen them before.
I missed that. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, we didn't. We had heard about them.
I figured something like this also.
So
you know what
people are afraid to talk.
I don't mean to quote the same medical ethicist twice on the same show, but we were talking about your story with Art Kaplan from NYU's Lingo Medical Center on the radio yesterday, and I said, assuming this is all true, what happens to this guy? I mean, as you guys write, he's the most successful guy on television. What is he worth? 79 million or whatever that number was there. What happens? Let's assume all your reporting is as accurate as I assume it is. His license lapsed, 11 years ago anyway. Who can touch him unless sponsors decide, I don't want to be associated with this thing? What happens to him?
Well, and he owns the show. So
that's another wonderful point.
He's his own boss.
So he's insulated, is he not?
In large respect, it's whether or not people watch the show. That will determine whether he's successful or not, or what happens.
And by the way, just to be clear, McGraw himself refused to speak to you, right?
Correct.
Of course.
Everybody should read the story. It's great reporting, really powerful.
It's over.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you.
Oh, that was very short. All right, so here's the thing, guys. When it comes to like TV and overall media, like you have to understand that a good amount of what we're encountering is just completely fake. I mean, everything is for TV. But whenever you're doing something that's going to be like extremely detrimental to someone's life, there should definitely be some type of like medical professional there that will have the ability to at least help if things get crazy, at least, right? Not specifically someone who is there just to make the ratings kind of go up, right? I'm sure that some of the producers are there exclusively to, how do I say this nicely? Okay. Maybe they get like some type of pay bump or bonus or something if the show itself is doing, better than normal. So of course you're going to want as much drama as humanly possible on the episode, most likely. Specifically, if you're running into a show or some type of episode, at least, where it's like an episodic type of thing, guys. It could be something like that, guys. Right? But again, I don't believe anything I see on TV, nor do I believe nearly anything that I see in general. Like, you're gonna have to prove it, bro. Okay, I think that's just the reality of the situation, at least for me. But in the meantime, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly.